to bed. Um, yeah. Brad, how was the rest of Palm Springs?
It was dope, man. We played only 2 rounds. Played Desert Willow and PGA West, 2 courses I really really wanted to play.
Where they're at right now?
What's that?
They're at PGA West right now, the
Mhm.
pros.
Oh right, yeah. I mean, we got it warmed up for them.
Yeah.
left a couple divots somewhere for those guys to study
Right.
into. Good for
I
you.
was a
Man.
little. I gotta be honest. I was a little disappointed how the greens look.
Oh, really?
Really?
Oh yeah, they had all kinds of pitch marks that went unfixed, and
Do
I'm
you think they
just
pulled any sort of like Augusta magic 1 week before the event and like souped it up? Because have you
maybe
seen those photos of Augusta in
yes.
like late March and it's barren and
Mhm.
like denuded, gross grass, and then it's just like a wonderland?
Yes, I gotta. What's today? Thursday. They played the first. Yeah, I would be curious to see what it looks like today because it. I can send you photos. It looked like straw hay in the fairways. Oh no,
Yeah.
in the rough, and the fairways were like plush,
Yeah.
and then the greens were just like they looked like Rocky after fighting uh fucking
Anybody
whatever
who
those
he
guys.
fought.
The Russian dude. Yeah, yeah, whoever.
I wanted
Yeah.
to go Clubber Lang, but the word wasn't going.
Yeah,
So
it's crazy
Farris,
what they can do with some of those tracks, man. Like a couple days of love and like all the greenskeepers working on them, man. Like they can turn that stuff around mad quick.
yeah, that and a couple buckets of Valspar paint will
Yeah.
really do the trick.
True. I
Yeah.
was really grateful I didn't have any of that come off my shoe
Yeah.
though.
Yeah,
That
that's
was the
true.
craziest thing. When I like first got into like playing loads and loads of golf, I was always like shocked at how green some greens were. And then you
Mhm.
like walk up and then realize they're like spray painted,
Straight
And
up.
I'm like, yo, like what? This is so weird. Like, especially like where I live, in Kansas City, like we have all dormant grass, right? So
Right.
everything dies during the winter. So you have these like, you know, really gross, like burnt out looking fairways, and then these really fake, pristine greens.
Right.
And I'm like, yo, don't paint it. It looks
Yeah, it's like
terrible.
one of these things is not like the other and is
Yeah.
clearly fake.
Yeah.
So being in Kansas City, not playing any golf at the moment because it's frigid, but when do you think it'll start warming up for you out there?
Yeah, hopefully around March. Usually March is like when it'll start to get up into like the 30s, 40s, and 50s, which is like the 40s are acceptable golf weather for me. The 40s are
Mhm.
not acceptable golf weather for the people that I play golf with. So it'll be a lot of like solo Saturday and Sunday mornings probably, which I'm fine with. I don't mind it. But we're leaving Kansas City in March and we're heading out to the eastern seaboard and we're going to spend like 6 months kind of living out of long-term Airbnbs and go down to Florida and like there's on like my 50 state trip like so many places that I landed in and I was only there for like 2 days, like
Right.
Charleston, South Carolina, and I was like, yo, like there's a vibe in this city and like I need to come back here, not for just like 2 days, 6 hours of those being golf and then like getting in the car and driving. So
Yeah.
we planned out like a 6 month trip to just like see some cool stuff and like a little bit more of like the forgotten side of America that like isn't, people don't spend a ton of time going to like central Maine,
Right.
or
Right.
whatever, hanging out up that way. So I'm gonna try to kick it up that way and do that. So
That sounds like a very cool plan. And you sort of just teased this, but in 2021, in June, May, you completed your 50 state challenge. That sounds like a bad YouTube video, but like you you completed your tour of all 50 states, playing golf in
yeah,
all 50 states. Which uh, that's how I found out about you, and that's how you and I got connected. Was I saw
yeah,
you complete this journey, and funny enough, the course that you finished at, Redtail in Massachusetts, is that correct?
yeah.
Okay,
Devon's, Massachusetts. Yeah.
I grew up playing on that golf course,
Oh, dude,
so
that's the pin flag right there behind me
I
That's
know
from the
wild.
18th green at
I
Redtail.
I saw that when we first talked on
Yeah,
video, and I was like, wow, that is iconic that you
yeah,
ended your journey there. But I guess like I was really drawn to you originally, because I think your story is unique. Like most people who I hear say I've played golf in 50 states,
Mhm.
I'm not really interested in that. If anything, I'm actually like I kind of like detest them for it because the way they present that story is one of a brag and of privilege, but
Mhm.
it feels like, and the way I've heard you talk about your journey, it feels like you approached that mission with a very different set of objectives.
Yeah.
Um, can you talk a little bit about the experience at like a high level, and then we can dive into
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, totally. It was yeah, kind of a wild ride, man. Like, it first started like, I started playing loads and loads of golf a couple years ago, and had a bunch of conversations with people where I was trying to drag my friends out to the golf course. And I was like, yo, there's this thing. It's called golf, and it's this really incredibly interesting way to uncover like layers about yourself and taking that on this just like crazy like meta like learn about yourself, discover whatever. And I kept getting this like response from people. They're like, "You play golf? Like you don't
Mm,
look like a golfer. You don't sound like a golfer. You don't
Mm.
act like a golfer." And it kind of started like kicking off these questions in my head where I was trying to figure out you know, how to set definition around like who I was as a golfer. Right. And I started going out and playing loads of courses around the Pacific Northwest and started realizing that I looked a little different than most people who were there.
hmm,
Like being an Arab dude with tattoos and dreadlocks, like, I'd look around and there weren't a lot of people that looked like me. And I'd get loads of eyeballs from people, like I'd walk up to like, a practice green or whatever. And like the starter would look down at his clipboard and look up at me and look at his clipboard and be like, "Do you have your receipt?" And I'm like, I mean, yeah, yes, here you go, and started like kicking off some conversations in my head of like, you know, golf right now is at this really interesting tipping point where it's becoming, it's on its way towards becoming much more, racially diverse and inclusive and accessible for people. So decided I was like, yo, what would it look like for me to kind of just like jump in the car or jump on a plane and travel around America and go play golf in all 50 states? Really with the intention of like meeting new people, having like hard conversations about things like racial diversity, racial equity versus equality, and introduce myself to people who probably like wouldn't have had a chance to play golf with a person like me, or maybe who sees the world a bit different from them, or can kind of give voice to like the other side. And it was wild, like I think I'm
mhm.
like I'm the type of dude who's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do a thing, I'm gonna do this, and like I don't know if you guys have the same problem of like I don't always fulfill some of those things. So it became this thing. I was like, yo, like we're gonna do this, and I had a bunch of my
Yeah.
friends who were like, no, you're not. Like you're not gonna get this done. Uh, and yeah, so kind of started in Washington State and traveled all around America, all 50 states, and met loads of people and had like really hard conversations with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I found that like golf courses are this like interesting thing where like one of the byproducts of golf is like emotional management. Like you have to keep your temper,
Mm.
and sometimes I found that like having these really charged conversations, or even like quick 30-second 1 minute long conversations walking down the fairway with somebody, like you could talk about some of these heavy topics, and like just being in the mindset of like, all right, how do we either let this roll off, or how do
Mhm.
we control our responses to some of these things in a little bit more uh, of a mindful way, was kind of really powerful. And also, like I also ended up in a lot of places in America where I was like, yo, like you guys, y'all live in a bubble. Like there
Mm.
are not a lot of people who look different. There are not a lot of people who think different in these areas. And,
Yeah.
rooms that I walked in were like the record scratched. And I was like, yo, like I'm trying to pay. Like I'm here for it.
Yeah. I There are so many things that I admire about this project for you. Like Brad and I have had this conversation before. I personally really, really cherish playing golf with random people. I love it.
Mhm.
I really like walking up and sort of spinning the roulette wheel and, walking up to the local muni or whatever and just seeing who I get paired with because it's a new connection, it's a new conversation, it's a challenge, whatever. I also recognize that for me it's safe. It's relatively
Mhm.
safe to do that. It's a privilege that because of the way that I look and the way that I sound, I have the privilege to be able to do that comfortably. You described like going into those situations knowing that you look, feel different to what quote unquote you said was like the average looking sounding golfer.
Mhm.
Were there any instances where you have this mission on your mind, you have the 50 states to lock down? Were there any states where you were feeling trepidatious about what you would find, or the way that you would be received by a random group of people that you'd be matched up with that day?
Yeah, so it was, what month would that have been? Probably like May of 2021. And it was like immediately following, George Floyd's murder in Minneapolis, and like all of the, civil uprisings that were happening around, where people were like, yo, this is not okay. People were having, really intense conversations about how people of color in America are treated, how the systems of oppression exist in America. And we went on, like, I think we had left Seattle and we were gone for probably like 2.5 months. We had a wedding that we needed to get to in Nashville. And I talked to my wife and I was like, let's just get in the car and let's just go travel around America. I think we ticked off like probably 20 or 25 states in the span of like those 3 months, just kind of pinballing our way through America. And I had a lot of friends in Seattle who were like, dude, like, it's not the safest thing for you to do right now. Like, you're going to be in like rural Idaho, like you're going to be in like places that, you're going to be getting gas in Nebraska, like you're going to be in places that like probably aren't going to feel super comfortable, even down to having conversations around like, with my wife even, who, is the best person on the planet. But like, she's like a young white woman. And I was like, yo, like if we get pulled over by the police, like these are the things that we need to do. Like if I get asked for, my registration, like you need to grab it out of the glove box. Right. Like, or like all of these things that were just kind of like setting these parameters for us to live in. But we got all the way out to West Virginia, and like West Virginia in and of itself is just, man, it's that state needs some love. That state needs some love hard, but like we were in, I think like the city was called Lavalette. And like we roll into this golf course and like I walk into this pro shop and there were probably a dozen people kind of just sitting around, like Saturday guys all in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And like if the music was playing when I walked in, it stopped. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody turned and looked at me. I went up to the starter and I was trying to like check in and they were like, yeah, sorry, we don't have you on the tee sheet today. And I was like, oh yeah, like I called a couple days ago, booked a tee time, just going out. I was like, you guys are pretty wide open. Do you mind, you mind if I scoot out? And the guy was like, yeah, tee sheet's looking a little tough today. And,
Man.
we probably had a conversation for maybe 30, 45 seconds. And I was like, look, man, like I'm playing golf in all 50 states. And unfortunately, West Virginia is one of the 50 states that I have to play in. And like, I only have a couple hours here before I got to rip out. But like, we end up having a transaction. And I go out to the starter and, the starter held me up as a single and let several groups play through. And it was like, kind of like, we'll get to you in a second. We'll get to you in a second. We'll get to you in a second. And like, my wife was sitting in the golf cart with me and she was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, what is going on? And I was like, yeah, I mean, this is what people think golf is like everywhere. Right. And these are the types of experiences people who look different, talk different, act different, are different, kind of experience in like their day-to-day lives. Fortunately, that was just like a moment in time, but it's wild. Like, you get done with a round of golf and like you go have dinner and like, people start to have some drinks and like how flappy they get about things, like start saying some like stuff that's like a little bit wiling out. Like my buddy Riley and I, we were towards the end of the trip, we were in, I think it was Rhode Island. Yeah. Newport, Rhode Island, and played this like slamming golf course out there. And then we were at dinner and like, I started talking about what I was doing. And, this woman finds out that I'm Arab and she like asked my buddy, she was like, do you check him for a vest every time you guys get on an airplane? And like, just all these things. And I was like, damn, like the audacity to be able to actually like say that, sure, in jest, but to a stranger, and like, man, like that stuff's like one layer deep for like a lot of America. Like it's so close to the surface still. So it was it was interesting, I mean, I don't want to like say everything sucked, because a vast majority of my experiences were so positive. Like I met so many people who just changed, like, one, like how I thought of like even what my mission was as a golfer, right? Like even like what inclusion and like bias looked like. You know, what biases I had in my life, like when I walked into those places, and it was just as deconstructive for me, kind of surprisingly, that I wasn't really prepared for,
Mm.
just through the people that I met.
Wow. That's man, I can't say that I have had experiences like yours, but you know that, you know, as people of color, that stuff happens on the golf course, man. Like,
Yeah.
from being assessed phantom penalty strokes in a golf tournament to, oh yeah, no, we didn't see your ball, you know,
Yeah.
yucking it up with your buddies, like that kind of stuff. Just it's what we fear the most about golf, and unfortunately, sometimes it's true. I'm curious. I mean, I know you shared with us, I think before we started recording, you know, you're recently married, and you and your wife had these tough conversations about navigating through the country and what situations you might come up with or come up against. And she sat there and saw one, you know, happen to you at the golf course. What was the conversation like after that between the two of you, if anything?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it became this
if you're
interesting,
comfortable sharing. I mean,
yeah,
it's you and your
totally.
wife. It's a personal conversation, obviously,
Yeah.
but you know.
Yeah, I think as people who experience, like, it was a really interesting role reversal. Like I became the comforter to her, you know, like because she was like livid, you know, she was like boiling through the roof, and she was like, I'm going to talk to every one of these people, and they're going to hear what I have to say, and I'm going to, you know, give them, you know, I'm going to like lay into them pretty hard. And like I had to be the person who was just like, no, like it's no big deal, like calm down, like it's okay. And it became this kind of really interesting other side of it, where as the person who was experiencing that, my job was to de-escalate that for a person who was like experiencing like the I'm offended on behalf of you.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting, you know, kind of look in of like even how desensitized I think a lot of people are to it, that like we become the comforter in that moment to people who are experiencing like a visceral response to that. You know, we're like, yo, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Like, you know, that woman who had, you know, was kind of dogging on me for being Arab about, you know, having a vest or unsafe on airplanes or whatever. You know, like my buddy Riley was like, he had to leave. Like he got up and left for a moment because he was like, I'm about to make a scene on behalf of you. How are you just taking this? And I think it's a kind of a really interesting role reversal where you become the safe place, right? Like you kind of have to like hold on to it and be like, yo, like I've dealt with this for a long time.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's messed up, you know, because we as people of color are up against that at any given moment. You know, like it could happen at any given moment. It's one of our biggest fears. You know, we walk through life with this skin, with this appearance, and that like we can't hide it, you know. And it is an interesting role reversal, and one like we really shouldn't have to do, you know, like it's not up to us to comfort white folks, you know, or educate, or, you know, make you feel better or any of that. But there's a guilt that comes with it if we don't. And it's unmistakable. It's hard to shake that. Like my partner is also white, and there are conversations we have, you know, similar situations, and 10 times out of 10, you're right. It is, yo, don't even trip. Like, it's okay. Like it happens. It's okay. Like just love me. Like we'll get through it. And it's I'm glad you spoke to it that way. Because it's a side of, I guess, not even just like interracial friendships that kind of goes unsaid. Yeah.
Yeah, it's especially,
good for her for sticking up for you, though.
Oh yeah, she would. I mean,
and Riley. Shout out to Riley. Let's go to the pod.
Yeah, that guy. Oh man, he's come along for, you know, he's got a crazy story, man. Like he had never really traveled outside of the Pacific Northwest, and I started this, and you know, I think he's hit like 14 of my 50 states with me. And like,
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
we were even in like, again, like still kind of right around like all of the civil uprisings around, George Floyd's murder and all of the protests that were happening around cities. We were in Richmond, Virginia on a golf trip. And like, if you've ever been to Richmond, like it was the capital of the Confederacy.
Mhm.
It has just loads of racist history on display. Like there's a street that's maybe like 5 or 6 miles long that are all of the Confederate statues that are like memorialized and idolized. And
Yeah.
they had been vandalized and, they had been like marked up with like various, pieces of graffiti and art. And there were like community gardens that were kind of like built around these spaces that were just like trying to reclaim, the land back from, what the monument was trying to convey for those cities. And it was funny, like, I mean, he was just mind blown, like we were in DC because we were playing in Maryland and we were staying in DC and like we went down, and like saw all of the places that were these epicenters of, uprisings in cities and people being like, yo, no, like we're taking this back. Like we're having these conversations, whether or not you want to do it. So yeah, that guy, he's a treat, man. He was there for the finish line. Yeah, love that guy.
That's cool that you were with someone that you trust and have had a lot of shared experiences with for the culmination of your journey on state number 50.
Yeah.
Was it a bro hug? Was it a single tear? Was it like, what was that moment like when you hold the last putt or like picked it up, maybe?
Yeah, no, that one made it in the cup, man.
Good.
Nice.
Yeah, that one made it in the cup. I don't know, man. Like I think about it a lot, and it was actually, so we teed off on 18, and it's crazy because like I look at things that were just like the tee box on number 1 was like this kind of weird realization that this is over or about to be over. Hitting the turn, teeing off on number 10 was like, this is the last stretch of 9 holes. When we got to the 18th tee box, I had 2 of my like longtime, really close friends of mine, Riley and Gary, and they were both with me. And I played that hole by myself. I pulled my bag off the golf cart, and like I've gotten really into walking. Trying to get my golf friends into that as well is a bit more of a challenge. So I like pulled my golf bag off of the golf cart, and I was like, "You guys like go ahead and play up. Like you guys have your hole. I need to have this experience, And I had no idea what it was going to be, Like I tee off and had a moment of like, when like you feel a really powerful moment happening like anywhere in your life, like you kind of get those chills. Like it feels like a cold bucket of water was just dumped on your head. I had that for 8 minutes of golf, 9 minutes of golf, just kind of walking down the fairway on number 18. And I hole out at the end of it. I holed out with a birdie, like like it was so sick. Like the last hole, I was like, this is great. This couldn't have been any better. And I get done with it, and I mean, I just lost it. Like I mean, it was like real. This is like the night of my 21st birthday kind of cry. Like I was feeling everything, and it was just this kind of culmination of like all of these experiences hitting at the same time, and also like just being like really proud of myself for getting it done. Like it took me a year and a half, and it was I picked up my golf bag and walked off of 18, and it was weird because as soon as we were off of the golf course, it was over. Like we go up to the clubhouse and that's it, right? And I sit down and like I had a very well-deserved beer, and it was over. So it was wild, man. Like there's a couple photos from it that are just like really intimate reflections for me still of like just completion and like completing something, for me of that, that level of importance and magnitude, and like having 2 of my buddies there who got to share in that experience was just so ideal.
Yeah, I imagine it's like if you watch TV shows, anthologically and like with passion, right? Like this is the worst example ever because it's the first one. Like, let me think of a different one.
You were gonna say Game of Thrones, weren't you?
I was gonna say Friends.
Oh,
which is the worst example.
Which is bad. Yeah,
which is terrible.
Yeah, when it's over, it's
somebody
just over.
feed me another example. Whatever. Fuck it. If you're watching Friends and you get to the last episode and you know that it's coming, you know that the final thing is coming. and it's over and you sit with that moment. Like but you're the actor, you're the character in this show. And very few times in life are you given an opportunity or a series of events where you can tell what the culminating moment is going to be,
Right.
when it's going to be. You don't know how it's going to be. That's the exciting part. So it's so fucking cool that you had this experience, regardless of like what you were feeling or however climactic or anticlimactic it was. It's so cool that you were able to go through this experience and be like, yeah, I have one more round of golf left. I have one more last stretch of 9 holes left. I have one more hole left. I have one more putt left. And it's a fucking birdie. That's so sick. What a way to finish.
Yeah, that was sick, man.
How'd you play that last hole? Was it driver, iron?
Yeah, so it was a par
wedge?
5, which we had a laugh about it. It was like, yo, like, I mean, we're going to squeeze as much golf into this 50 state thing as possible, right? Like, let's get a long par 5. Let's do it, went driver, 3-wood, wedge, putt.
Hell yeah.
And it was it, it's like, it's exactly how you would want to draw up playing like a 530 or 540 yard par 5. Like there's a speed slot that you hit that's just ideal. And it was just so good. It was so good. Like I got done, I was like, I just couldn't have played that any better. I mean, sure, like the way, like an eagle would have been sick, but like, one last circle for the scorecard.
I want to know how the hell you chose Red Tail of
I
all
was gonna
courses.
ask you, Connor,
and like and because it's sort of and for all of the courses for that matter, like you picked some out there courses that are not like Red Tail is like a 45-minute drive away from Logan Airport. Like that's that's a poke to get out there. Why that course? Why those types of courses that are in the middle of the space?
Yeah, so when I started, I had the aspirations. I was like, I'm going to play like top 100 US courses, like I'm going to go find the Torrey Pines of every state, right? Or I'm going to go find, the Quail Hollow of every state. I was on a golf trip. I was playing in St. Louis, Missouri. This was actually before I lived here. So I'd flown out, and like most of my golf trips were basically like, okay, what airport can I fly into and play the most amount of states and then get back to work on Monday? Because like most of this, I was a weekend warrior. So like I would show up to work on a Friday with my golf clubs, a weekend bag, work a half day, go to the airport, jump on a flight, early morning tee time, sometimes 36 in a day, right? And just like tick off as much golf as possible and then get back to work on a Monday. And people were like, how was your weekend? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I haven't gotten more than
I got some
4 hours of
blisties.
sleep. Yeah. But so I was in St. Louis, and I was, I played this really cool track out there called Peevely Farms. And it was, again, like one of those golf courses where like, you play on a Saturday and like you're paying a premium, it was like an expensive, nice track, used to be private, just went public. And I was talking with the guy in the pro shop and had a great day. And he was just like, yeah, man, like I live in St. Louis, but like nobody who lives in St. Louis plays here. It's too expensive. It's 30 minutes, 45 minutes outside of the city. And like green fees are like $200. Like none of my friends play out here. And he was like, if you want to see what St. Louis golf looks like, there's 3 9-hole executive loops in like the center of St. Louis in Forest Park. He was like, that's where we go play. And I was like, done. So I had just gotten done playing 18, get in the car. I think I still had my golf shoes on. I got like really sidebar. Like I got really into spikeless golf shoes just because I can wear them all of the time.
Yes.
But I just got in the car, drove down there, walked in, talked to the guy in the pro shop, paid him like $10 or whatever. And he was like, yeah, $10, unlimited golf, play whatever you want. And there was this kid who was in the pro shop who, overheard me talking about playing golf in all 50 states or whatever. And he got pretty psyched. And I think he was like 15. His name's Logan. And like, I'll never forget this kid because he was like, let me take you out. Like I play here 4 or 5 days a week. Like let's go. Like, and he starts ripping off behind me. And, like to go from playing a super seemingly inaccessible, like, cost prohibitive golf course to then playing this like local backyard track, something really funny happened in that. And I was like, yo, like, I realize how inaccessible I'm making even people understanding kind of this journey of playing golf in all 50 states when you're paying $200, $300, $350 to go play, a round of golf. You're like, all right, like it's just, you're burning dumb money. Like you're doing something that's kind of silly. and it's not accessible for the everyday person who you're trying to get interested and invested in golf. So after playing that round with that kid, like he was just so excited about like the future of golf and everything. And I was like, all right, like I need to rethink some of this, right? Like I don't want to go just play really exclusive golf courses and like figure out who I have in my golf network that I can call and be like, yo, can you get me on Prairie Dunes or whatever?
Right.
I wanted to go play like the place that like, you know, the 25 handicapper is playing, you know, once a month with his buddies and like, you know, drinking beer and like playing cash games and just like laughing and having a silly experience. Cause that's how, you know, that's how I started playing golf. Like that was what was exciting to me about like my inception into my reality as a golfer. So after that, I started looking at saying, okay, basically like, can I set like a cost prohibition on some of the rounds that I play? And Redtail was just one of those, you know, like it used to be on like the top 100 courses you can play like a couple years ago. Recently went through, I think like a ownership transition, and I saw a picture of the clubhouse and it's like a shack. And I was like, yep, like that's what I'm looking for.
That's the one.
You know, that's it. So yeah, I made that the finish line and it was great, man. Like they were cool. They were, you know, really excited. The kid who worked in the pro shop like went down and took the pin flag off of number 18, you know, and was just like, it was actually the playing flag. So it's like pretty dirty and gross. And I have like a wall of like, you know, some of the collector's ones over there, but like that's the most coveted one that I own, and it's disgusting.
Covered in chemicals and pesticides.
Yeah. Like spray paint for the greens for the winter, just everything.
Yeah.
That is great. I love that accessibility was a factor for you. You know, we talk so much about it in, you know, golf media. Make the game more accessible, make it more inclusive. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not of the golf industry. You are a lover, an enthusiast, a player who just like wanted to do a cool thing and did it, and like in an accessible way, in like an admirable way. Like, I mean, I'm impressed. I love hearing you talk about this. I can see how passionate you are about it. And
I recently had a long talk with my wife. I'm like trying to get her on board with me doing another loop and basically doing all 50 states for less than $50 per round.
That's the
right.
move.
And just trying to be like, okay, so like let's actually look at like local municipal golf courses, because like my backyard muni course that I was playing in Seattle when I like really first started obsessing over the game, you know, it was like $18 to go walk 18 holes or something like that. You know, like if you got a morning tee time on a Saturday or Sunday, maybe you were paying $30, you know? And so it was like available for people. Like $30 is not an astronomical amount of money for, you know, folks to go pay to go play golf. So I had the idea and I was just, I'm trying to work her down on this one and let me go again, go do the state loop and just try to go find those like hidden gems of municipal golf courses where, you know, like the greens are in terrible shape, you know, like nobody knows how to fix a divot yet, you know, but like that's the place where every golfer, like doesn't matter who you are, there is like, unless you were like born into like a country club life and like kind of grew up playing golf there, but for a vast majority of golfers or golf fanatics, like you grew up playing golf on like a municipal course. You know, like you hear all the stories about like parents dropping their kids off, giving them $5 so they can get a bucket of balls, hitting some balls, and then, you know, paying like a junior rate and go playing 18 holes as a kid. You know, like that is not happening on a private golf course, right? There are rules in place so that does not happen. You know? So everybody fell in love with golf. Everybody fell in love with like a muni course. So we'll see if that happens. We'll see if that's in the future. I got some other things that I'm kind of focusing on for this year, but be a treat, man.
What are some things that let me rephrase that. What are some questions that you found yourself repeatedly asking random people that you were playing with to get to the root of the place, to get to the root of the people, and hopefully to get to the root of like why you were doing this thing at all?
Yeah, I hate asking people the question like, "What do you do for work?" Like, I get that question all the time, and like I
Yeah.
give like just such a vanilla answer that like nobody actually knows what I do for work if you ask me. You know, like I just default to saying I'm a consultant, and that's it. You know, then I immediately move on.
You
But I
like
started
fish.
asking people, yeah, totally. You know, I'm like, this is no. You know, because what you're doing is, you know, even that question, you're trying to like categorize people based on
Yes.
probably like income or socioeconomic
Totally.
status or whatever. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. Like, I'm not here for that level of conversation. I started asking people, like, what do they think about? You know, like, I love asking people the question of, like, what do you spend your time thinking about?
Mm,
Right. Or like, what's an interesting problem that you're thinking your way through right now? Like, it could be as simple as, like, my wife doesn't know what she wants to have for dinner. Or it could be as big as, like, my kids are going to college and, like, I don't know how I'm going to save for, you know, their college education. Right. Like, I mean, that was kind of like the spectrum that that question
Mm,
starts to get at. And what you're doing in that is you're not asking somebody to give you like a badge that they wear or like a public representation of who they are. Like, you're
right.
asking about how they think.
Right.
Right. And that becomes kind of like an interesting segue or starting point to, I think, just meaningful conversations. You know, it didn't always work. I mean, there were loads of conversations that I had with people that, you know, was trying to pry and they were just like, stop, like, you know, and trying to be respectful of that too, because like not everybody's trying to have like a deep, meaningful,
Sure.
impactful conversation when they're, you know, like duffing chip shots or like fatting their wedges, you know, like, so
Yeah.
it's a bit of like, you know, when and where to have some of those conversations. And, you know, there was one dude, like this guy, Dennis, we were playing in, I think, uh, what's the state on the other side of Minnesota? Wisconsin. We were in
mhm.
Hudson, Wisconsin. We were playing this like cool little track there called White Eagle, and it was like early on in kind of the 50 states. It was probably, I think it was state like 12 or 13. And I had called the clubhouse. They arranged for like one of the dudes who plays there a bunch to come out and meet me. And, you know, I'm solo. I'm in like the middle of like a relatively rural area outside of the Twin Cities. And I come up and I'm putting, and like this dude walks up to me with like a Marine Corps emblem on his t-shirt and like Marine Corps iron covers. And it's kind of just like an old classic, like Midwest white dude. And I was like, this is not going to go very well. Uh, and immediately, you know, like we get through like hole number one, and you know, he turns around and he looks at me and he's like, Farris, where are you from? And I was like, well, you know, I live in Seattle, you know, kind of grew up bouncing around to a couple different places. And he goes, where's your family from? And I just looked up
Ooh.
at him. I was like, Dennis, are you trying to ask why I'm not white? And he like
Mhm.
laughed. He was like, yeah, but I
Yeah.
don't know how to
Giveaway.
ask that, you know? And I
Yeah.
was just like, we're in. Sick.
You're like,
And so I did this like,
that's my foot in the door to have
yeah,
a conversation with you, an actual
yeah,
conversation with you.
yeah. Which was wild because looking back on it, like he had so much, he didn't have the words to respectfully communicate the things that he was trying to understand.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so it took like loads of like boldness on his end to even kind of start that conversation. And it was, you know, like we get to the turn and we hit the turn and he goes, yo, like, how about you just jump in my golf cart? Like, I love the conversations that we're having. And this guy that, like, you know, back to, you know, I was talking earlier about like even some of the biases that I had to break down kind of throughout this adventure was, uh, you know, I said, this guy's not the guy for me. We're going to have nothing in common. We think about the world completely different. And I put him in a box and I was just like, this is who you're going to be. We get to the turn and he was just like, dude, jump in my golf cart. Like, let's play together. You know,
Mm.
like we get to like the 17th and 18th hole and like he's telling me about, you know, his first wife who had passed away and his second wife and his kids who were my age and how, you know, I'm his son's age and his son never picked up golf and he thought that this would be like what it would be like to golf with his kid on a Saturday. And it was just this really powerful experience where I was like, yes, like, and I'm so happy that it happened so early into my 50 states that I was like, this is the kind of stuff that I'm, you know, is like, this is the story that people need to talk about in golf is like how reconciling of a community it actually is. Like, sure, there's like, you know, things live on kind of the peripheries of it where like, you know, like bad stuff happens in any community, you know, but
Mhm.
like at the core of it, like I was so like excited about understanding more and more of golf. And like I'd probably only played golf like for like 3 years, maybe 2.5 or 3 years at that point.
Mm.
So it was like, you know, still learning and it was just so sick.
That's really beautiful that he said, "Let's play together"
Yeah.
at the turn.
Mhm.
It's like, what had you been doing before that? You know, but I think it's an interesting point because there are those rounds where you play with random people, and you referenced this earlier, where it's like you're not really trying to have that conversation. You're just sort of like you're there captively. You're there like in the same group because it just happened to work out on the timesheet, but you're just sort of like moving through the same space at the same time. But for him to invite you in like that shows openness, shows maybe growth, shows reciprocation of that openness from you. So it sounds like a really beautiful experience to have with somebody who you, like you said, thought might act a little differently towards you.
Yeah,
that's like the conversation. Like that's like what we're all here for. That's why we do this, because we know that golf has the power to do that. And you walked into it and you embraced it and like you lived it out. And what's his name? Gary?
Dennis.
Yeah.
Dennis is, dude, it was actually crazy. So I love this, man. So I get hyped when I talk about this guy because like I text him, I don't know, every couple of months. And when I got done, when I got done at Red Tail, finished my 50th state, I texted Dennis before I texted my wife that I was done. Because like this guy was like hitting me with like all these updates, and he was just like, yo, like where are you playing, what number are you at? I like tried to introduce him to Instagram so I could like send him pictures, and he was like, that's not gonna happen. And so I had texted him when I got done, and I just got like a bunch of emojis back and no words, you know, like it was like golf emojis, hand clap emojis, so and like had assumed this like 85-year-old man had just recently learned from somebody in his life what emojis were. And he was like, this is how I'm going to communicate from now on. And I just liked the message, and that was it. And like, there was just this weird moment of like, this is exactly what this should be.
Oh my God. Protect Dennis.
Yeah. He's a star.
Yeah.
Dude, that's incredible. I know, Farris, we're just meeting here for the first time, but I'm a lifelong Wisconsin resident. And Brad and Connor got to come out to Wisconsin last August, so it warmed my heart knowing that the Midwest nice is real.
Yes.
Yeah. It's, I mean, by and large, like the golf community is, I don't know, like I think when I set out, you know, when I check my heart and I look at like the expectations I had, I was expecting conflict, when in reality, most of the time you know, Drew, to your point, like I met the Midwest nice. Like I met people who invited me to their houses for dinner. You know, I met people who were, you know, would have, you know, random lunches with people after a round of 18. And they were like, oh, like I got your lunch. Like, let me take care of it. You know, like I met so much hospitality, you know, and it's crazy because like, that's the golf that I want to introduce people to, you know, like we have to deal with like the BS and like kind of like, you know, the lack of catching up to kind of the social normities that we're starting to see. And I think golf will do that, right? I think the golf community will do that. I think it's important also to, you know, I've been mindful of dividing like golf. I hear you guys talk about it as like capital G golf. Like golf is a thing versus like the institution of golfers. And like, because golf, like as a whole, doesn't care who you are. Like golf doesn't care if you have cargo shorts on. Golf doesn't care if you're barefoot. Like golf just requires you to show up and try. You know, it's like all of the other kind of rules and things that, you know, make golf feel so inaccessible or like so uncomfortable. Like I hate wearing golf clothes. Like it is not my style. It's not what I like to wear. Like I will roll up to a golf course wearing a hoodie because I don't have a polo on. And I'm like, as long as you can't see my collar, we're good. You know, and it's just, it's just such an interesting kind of concept that, you know, again, like the vast majority of golfers just love the experience that they get to have because nothing else exists on a golf course other than people playing golf.
Man, that's beautiful.
Let's say you have some copycats pop up, and not in a negative way, just like people who are like,
go for it.
Yo, Farris, like what you did was incredible. I want to try and do something similar. What advice do you have to people who are like, I want to do that?
Marry a flight attendant so you can fly for free. You know,
that's a big perk.
First step. First step. It's funny, like there's a thing in like the airline community or airline professionals. It's like marry me and fly for free. No, but like I think like part of my encouragement for it is like make it whatever you want. When Tom Coyne came out and published his book called The Course Called America, he played in all 50 states, and he also played all of like the top 100 courses. So it's like, if that's your vibe, do that. Like if you want to pay $500 to go play Pebble Beach because when you started playing golf, you also picked up like, PGA 2K whatever, like you were playing like Tiger Woods, and like you remember every, hole on Pebble Beach or Spyglass or whatever you want to play, go do it. Like if you want to have a while and out adventure and like you want to have late nights, like partying with your friends, go do it. Like it's one of those things that like make it whatever you want, but have intention behind it, and jump into it, man.
I love it.
Yeah, but marry a flight attendant for sure. It's like
that's like, number one.
Yeah, I think a lot about it. There's actually I thought like now knowing like loads of people who work in the airline industry, I'm like, y'all need to play golf because you have 18, 24, 30-hour layovers in Maui. Like my wife goes to Hawaii once a month, and I'm like, man, bring a half set.
Right,
you'll have a great time.
Yeah. Work on your like 3/4 swings, just have a day, have a really nice time.
That's it.
That's
man.
so
That's
funny.
it.
Last thing I want to ask you before we get into our like, I want some numbies. Your experience.
Yeah,
we need the numbies.
We need the numbies. So just any estimates. So like dollars spent cumulatively. Number of strokes, like balls lost, bird, like whatever comes to mind that you think is relevant. What are some numbers in your mind?
Yeah, so actually, Connor, you and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, and I have a case of all of my scorecards from all 50 states. And I pulled them out and I added it up, and across 50 states, so this will tell you how good of a golfer I am. Across all 50 states, it was 4,000. I actually have the number here. It was 4,517 strokes.
4,517.
Okay.
Yeah.
Across
so like a 9
rounds
average?
of golf.
Yeah. So it was. I think it came out to like 92 average or something like that. Where I had slamming days where like, and I'm like, I've gotten more and more progressively honest with my scorekeeping. So like definitely had days where I was shooting in the high 70s, but also had days where I was shooting like Torrey Pines is hard, you guys. Like,
and it is long,
dude. I mean, you're hitting, driver 4-iron into every par 4. Like there are golf courses that are just like protecting the heck out of itself from you trying to score low. So that was that, man. It was 4,500 shots. I haven't added up birdies. It would be probably sad. Like, I definitely would not add up bogeys, doubles, or triples. But would be curious. Yeah, I mean, that's also the thing. Like, you asked, like, what would you say to somebody who's trying to do this? Is like, it's it was spendy, but like was super worth it. Also, like I got to work from the road for almost all of it. Like when COVID happened, like my job, we went fully remote. So like I was like, why would I sit in Seattle and work in Seattle, or sit in Kansas City and work in Kansas City when I can go play, fly to Philadelphia for the weekend, work out of Philadelphia for the week, and play golf in 4 states in like 5 days or whatever, So it was, there's numbers, man, probably sad numbers that I don't necessarily want to know.
Well, when you write the book, there's got to be a data section.
Yeah.
Just title it Numbies. It'll be
just Numbies.
It'll be like that wink and nod to group golf therapy.
Yeah, I got you. I'll put a little trademark sign next to it and just have it say GGT instead of a little TM.
Yes.
That's love. I feel like, Farris, you're about to knock these meat and potatoes questions out of the park. I can't wait to hear every single answer.
Man, hit me.
Drew, kick us off, man.
I'm going to start I'm gonna start with a fun one because you experienced a lot of these while you were out and about traveling the world. Or maybe this will be something from from when you first started playing. But what are some of your favorite golf smells?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this one. I mean, it's easy. Like the softball pitch is like playing golf in like on the coast, right? Like playing
Mhm.
golf on like the West Coast. You get
Mhm.
the Pacific Ocean smell.
Mm.
I fell in love with golf in the Pacific Northwest and not necessarily on the coast. So like the smell of like pine trees or like gorse or like that is just like when you roll up to a golf course and you get out of the car and it's like a crisp morning and you take that first deep breath and it's just like pine. That's
Mm.
it, man. Like that's it.
That's why when I was living in Portland, I would hit the ball into the trees all the time because I just wanted to
Yeah, that's
like
why.
I just wanted to walk amongst the pines and
Yes.
feel the sap and smell the smells.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that one in my pocket for the next time. I'm just chunking it out of the woods from now on. Just here for the smell, you
Just here
guys.
for the
Here
smell
for
of
the
the
scent.
pine.
That's good. Champions dinner menu be? Wait, what would your champions dinner menu be if you won
Yeah,
a tournament and you
yeah.
next year got to pick the menu? What would you choose?
Yeah, this is like tough, man, because like I'm like a pretty big food guy. Like I obsess over like New James Beard, award-winning restaurants, and like I'm hunting Michelin stars everywhere I go.
Mm.
Um, but like I'm a sucker for like Nashville hot fried chicken. Like I think that would be it, man. Like I want to like harken back to like, my Arab roots a little bit and say like a couscous dish or like some lamb or something. But like nothing hits harder than like Nashville hot chicken and like a piece of like, like the really crappy like Wonder Bread, like white
Yes.
bread under
Yes.
it, like it's
And the
just, I mean, it's
pickles.
out of control. Oh, it's out of
Give me
control,
some
man.
slaw.
Come
So
on.
are you talking like the hot chicken? Not like what people actually in Nashville eat, but like the shit that they make Yankees eat. It's like as Sean Brock puts it,
Yeah.
the stuff that you have to put a roll of toilet paper in the freezer for because it's like a 3-day experience. Like is that
Yes.
the shit that you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no part of it should be uncomfortable, or no part of it should be comfortable. It's one of those things where
Yes,
it's
yes,
like,
yes. Okay.
it's no part of the experience is enjoyable, except your soul is on fire for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's
Yes.
So it
so
would be
good.
Nashville hot chicken. Anything else? Just that. You just make
No.
people sweat, and you're fine. And then everybody rolls up to the first tee tomorrow in complete agony.
Just dead.
Just dead.
Yes.
They
man.
don't make it to the tee time, and you win by default again.
The poor guy who has to clean out those porta potties after my master's dinner, man.
Oh,
No, yeah,
God.
but I mean, I just the slaw, like the mac and cheese, like when you get like true Southern mac and cheese, man, it's. I mean, that's it. Like I'm a comfort soul food guy, kind of through and through. That'd be it, man. If you could just take the restaurant Hattie B's, shout out Hattie B's. I'll take whatever sponsorships you're interested in sending my way for the
Yes.
future. If
We'll
you could
try and
take
make
the
something
restaurant
happen
Hattie
for you.
B's, slide it into Augusta, done.
Dope.
So good.
What is the time on the golf course you have laughed the hardest?
I mean, we used to be like pretty rowdy. I think a lot of people when they're playing golf, like I said this earlier, but like we'd be filling our golf bags with like beers and like so there's silly shenanigans, crashed golf carts, flipped golf carts, kind of that silly stuff. But I think the one that sticks out the most, I was playing this, like there's this beautiful Mike Strantz golf course called Tobacco Road in Sanford, North Carolina. And to this day is like one of my favorite golf courses. I actually have the route map printed out above my computer in my office. And like kind of tragic story for Mike Strantz, but he designed just a couple golf courses before he passed away. And Tobacco Road is like his crowning jewel. And if you've ever played it or you've ever been there, I think it's like number 12 or 13. There is a 40-foot bunker where you are down and there is a sheer wall that is easily 40 feet tall. And all I was thinking on my second shot was just avoid that. Like, you're fine. Just avoid that. And like playing like the game of don'ts, like I just sent one right into the pit.
Right.
And I was with my buddy Riley, and I think I swung 8 times trying to get out of that bunker, and then finally just straight up turned around and just sent one backwards to then have an approach shot back in. And I was just howling with laughter the entire time.
God.
And like Riley's doubled over on the green, just like waiting. He's like, dude, can I putt? Like, can we please get this party going? And I was just dead. I mean, I was rolling around on the sand, just like howling with
so
laughter.
good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you ever change clubs while in the bunker? Because there
No.
is nothing more embarrassing and like excruciating than being like, I have to change clubs in from this bunker because I can't get out of it.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, that would have been the responsible thing, but like I brought a wedge from the golf cart and walked, all the way down into this pit of doom.
So you're like, I'm not going back.
Yeah, you ain't going back.
Go back? No, I'm making this work right now. And if the high toe wedge doesn't get me out of here, Vokey, I'm calling you real soon.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That's very good. What's your walk-up music?
This is tough because like lately I think like my theme song, there's this kind of like indie artist that I found called Lady Bree, and like I'm a sucker for like stomp and clap soul music. Like that is what I spend most of my time listening to. And she has this track called Making a Move. Actually, she has an EP called Making a Move, and it is the most like affirming, feel good, stomp and clap, like soul funk pop music. That is just like, I mean, even like the end of that song, she just screams like, move out my way, devil. Like the whole song is just like, I'm here, I'm in it, let's have a day, and that for sure is like, I'm recently kind of on a quest for like some health, go to the gym every day and like playing the band in Solstice in a couple months. So like have to be able to do that. And that is like the song that I play on like the 4-minute drive to the gym. That is like, all right, buddy, like, let's go. Let's do this.
That's right. That's another, I mean, like you're playing in the band in Solstice. That's a topic point in and of itself.
Dude, I'm so stoked. That's all I think about right now. Like I've coveted this for so long.
Brad Drew, do you know what this is?
No.
You play every course at Bandon in one day.
Yeah. So it's 72 holes of golf here, dude. It's the craziest thing. Like, so they have an open lottery. I've been on the lottery list for 3 years. I finally got the chance to try to book a spot this last year and got in. And basically, I think this year it's like Pacific Dunes, Bandon Dunes, Sheep Ranch, and Old Mac. And you go play 72 holes of golf from sunup to sundown on the solstice, the longest day of the year. There's only like 120 people that get invited. You get to do it every year. And like, if you've played at Bandon before, it's a mandatory walk. So it's like, 25 or 30 miles or something like that. And I've actually never been to Bandon. So I figured if I was going to go for the first time, like, let's see it all.
Wait, Connor, you've done this before?
I've never done it before because the list is it's so competitive to do it. And the cool thing about it is once you get your spot, you're in. You don't lose that, like you get a recurring invite. So
you're like a Golf Digest hot list tester.
Dude, so many people are going to be sliding into the DMs.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just become a highly coveted golf partner because like you're the ticket.
That is so dope.
Incredible.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
Wow.
Should be good, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
You it seemed like it was easy for you to strike up this conversation with Dennis.
Yeah, Dennis.
Yeah. Curious, and I think Connor, you put this question in the doc for Farris.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked on the podcast about playing golf with a younger version of ourselves, listening to that younger version, the version of the yourself that first learned to play golf. What would that experience be like for you? What do you envision that you two would talk about after having played golf in 50 states and now you're going to play Bandon Solstice? Like, one, do you ever think you would be here? And yeah, like what do you think the conversation would be like?
Yeah, well, first buy Bitcoin. I probably tell myself that. Like hard, like definitely. Like just stay on it. Don't sell. Buy Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean,
Buy
I
Bitcoin,
think,
marry a flight attendant. That's
yeah.
like,
Yeah, then you're set.
yeah.
Yeah, I've actually thought a lot about this, and it's like the thing that I would it's hard to like not get like a bit like caught up, like just emotional, but ask for help, like knowing the reality that like younger me would go through to get to current me, like the tragic like losses that I would have in my life, the battles with, like pretty intense challenges with mental health and like severe depression. Like it would just be so affirming of like, you're gonna be okay, and like ask for help. Part of it would also want to be like just sharing the excitement. I think that I had a friend who always used to tell me that like, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's New Jersey. And I think, for people who are like, familiar with like New York, New Jersey, like you get to the other side of the tunnel and it's like Hoboken, like it's not that tight. So like when people talk about like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, sometimes it's New Jersey, and like that doesn't fulfill the story enough. And I would just want to spend time like talking that guy up, man, like making him, know that it's going to be okay. Ask for help, lean on people around you, and just it'd be so good. I think younger me would look at current me and be like, "What the heck? What? What? Golf? No." First of all, younger me wouldn't be playing golf. Like 15-year-old me, 20-year-old me probably wouldn't be nowhere near a golf course.
Yeah. And like where do you think golf has played a role, if at all? No is a fine answer, but where do you think, if at all, golf has played a role in your journey with mental health and overcoming some of the things that you felt in the past and still experience maybe?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, when I first started playing golf, it was an excuse to wake up in the morning on a Saturday. Like when I first got super into playing golf, like, like I have no shame about it. Like I was experiencing probably some of the like worst, most intense depression of my life. And like I was out late, I was spending a lot of time drinking. Like I was waking up at 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. And my entire identity was like my career. Everything else outside of that was just totally shot. And starting to play golf was literally like an excuse to like get up in the morning on the weekends and like get out early. And like everybody talks about like, get up, get outside, get some vitamin D, go for a walk, get exercise. And little did I know that like golf was the conduit for me actually starting to do some of the things that were giving me the opportunity to get myself out of some of those holes.
Wow.
It also became some of the most like long-standing trusted relationships and friendships that I have were from the golf community. People that like the universe just like put in front of me and was like, you can be your transparent, whole, broken, in need, scared, anxious self in front of this person, and they're going to support you, the same way on the golf course as they do off the golf course. And, even just as simply as like, it got me outside, was like such a huge part of it. And, even like, I kind of called back to it earlier, but like part of it is even just being able to control my emotions, to let stuff go, like to understand like what's important and what's not. And I think golf taught me a lot of that stuff, man. Like the ability to like, feel it, let it go, or also like, just really healthy conversations with people who are sharing an experience with you. Like it's crazy what the golf community has the ability to be to the people that need it. It's wild.
If that is not an ad for group golf therapy, I don't know what is.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't need to re-record the intro. We just did it.
Yeah.
Farris just took care of it for us.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, Farris. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Do we have one more before we call it a night?
Yeah. Drew,
Wait.
hit him with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of feel like you've answered this, but what one of our favorite questions we like to ask is what is your mortal wound, or what is your Achilles heel, or what's that one thing in your life?
Yeah, cinnamon rolls probably. Like a pan of hot cinnamon rolls. Yeah,
Hell
I
yeah.
mean, dude, I could crush. I mean, keep it away. Like, and we had cinnamon rolls. So we had 2
You're
weddings.
dead
because we
ass.
had
You're like,
100%.
Yes.
I'm like, no, like this is no joke. This is no joke. Like, it is an issue. So we had 2 weddings. We had a COVID wedding with just like a small gathering, 20 people. Then we had, a larger gathering like pretty recently, about a few months ago. And for both of those, we didn't have a cake. We had cinnamon rolls. We had like a cinnamon roll cake. And my
Hell yeah.
favorite picture from my wedding is my wife and I cutting the cake and just cutting into a giant cinnamon roll and throwing the cinnamon roll up in the air and catching it in my mouth.
Yes.
And that was the culmination of my childhood and adulthood in one
That
moment.
is amazing.
That's
I
incredible.
love that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I could take it like, deep and emotional, but like cinnamon rolls.
No,
dude,
that's great.
That's why I
That's
love these questions.
mic
They're
drop, yeah.
right. They're up to the guest interpretation.
100%.
Cinnamon
Does,
rolls,
uh,
a
does-
gift
does
and a
your-
curse.
Does your wife feel the same way about cinnamon rolls as you are? Is it a shared love, or was she doing this for you?
No, this is an obsession. Like this, what might have been like, I think I had 3 things that I got out of the wedding. Everything else, I was like, you and the wedding planners handle it. I want a sick dance party. I want an open
Yes.
bar, and I want cinnamon
Yeah.
rolls. Anything else?
I'm
It's all
good with
you.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
not-
love it.
Yeah, man.
I love
Wow.
that.
So good.
That's,
Love this. You
that's,
guys.
that's one of my favorite answers we ever had.
Yeah.
Right. Same.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah. So if you ever see me on a golf course, cinnamon roll.
who
Be a
needs a
great
turn
day.
dog? A turn roll.
A
Yeah.
turn roll.
Oh,
Yes.
dude, that's like they have sausage rolls in the UK, and like I don't know if you've ever
Right?
had a sausage roll,
Yeah,
but like
uh-huh.
I'm down with sausage rolls. But like if you hit me with like a freshly baked cinnamon roll at the turn,
It's game over. I mean, that's like
36, no
that
problem.
becomes 36. That becomes a defining characteristic of a golf course. This
Yes.
place has cinnamon
Mhm.
rolls.
Yeah.
Like
Yo,
that's a
if you
marketing
asked me-
ploy.
Yeah.
My favorite golf smell, and there was a golf course that had freshly baked cinnamon rolls at the halfway house.
Instant.
I don't care about pine trees anymore.
Yeah.
Fuck pine
Right.
trees.
It's
Burn the
it's
pine
cinnamon
trees.
rolls.
It's
You don't even
cinnamon
care
rolls.
about the golf
Yeah.
course anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Right.
No.
It's like I don't
Yeah.
come here for this course. What a dog
Yeah.
leg, right?
I'm just
No,
gonna
give me the
post
cinnamon
up-
rolls.
Post up at the turn stand and just
Right.
That's it.
house the pan.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
Done.
man.
Well, we
Farris,
know
this
what
has
we're
been
bringing
really
to
fun.
the group golf therapy, Farris Holiday foursome.
Yep.
It's cinnamon rolls.
Yeah.
100%. I'll be
I'm
there.
just gonna say this would be a banging foursome. A lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So hopefully we can make that happen.
dude.
in
Anytime you guys want.
2022.
Again, marry me
free
and fly for
miles.
free.
Yeah. Right. I'm saying.
I could get anywhere. I could get anywhere.
Well, next time the 3 of us link up in person, we'll give you head start, head notice, and we can make it happen. But Farris, thank you so much for your time as always.
Yeah.
I really, really, truly love talking to you and hearing your stories. You've got a lot of them. You have 50 of them plus. So
Loads.
thank you sincerely.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thanks for all this stuff. I mean, dude, like I love your guys' position on just closing gaps, whatever those gaps are inside of the world of golf, but then also kind of the hearts and minds of golfers, So I love it, man. Keep going. Keep finding the fairway, man. Stay in the short grass and enjoy.
Hit them straight and mind
Hit
your
it
golf.
stride. You don't have to. Nobody does. Let's be honest.
If you want.
If you want to. All right.